In this video, we're going to look at using a Prime sCMOS camera inside MetaMorph. So first of all, we're going to load up MetaMorph, and then I'll talk about some of the features of this camera. Just have to quickly deactivate this noise filter, which is on by default. And here we have our picture. So the Prime camera has a 4.2 megapixel sensor. That's 2048 by 2048 pixels. It's got a pixel size of 6.5 microns, meaning that our overall size of our chip is 18.8 millimeters in the diagonal. So we've got a really nice field of view, really big. So we've got a low read noise of just 1.3 electrons and 72% peak quantum efficiency, meaning this is a sensitive camera, good for high-speed work. We've got a 30,000 electron full well, meaning we've got really good dynamic range. With a high-speed PCI Express card, it can run at 100 frames per second full frame. With USB 3, just plug and play, it runs at 31 frames per second. So now we'll look at some basic controls, starting with the exposure time. We change the exposure time here. So say you've got a fixed sample that you can illuminate for a long time. Might use a large exposure time like 200 milliseconds, and then we'll get a very clear picture of the sample. Whereas if you've got dynamics that you want to capture, maybe fast moving particles, you might want to use a much shorter exposure time, say 2 milliseconds. And here we don't get so much signal, but dynamics are captured. One thing to make sure of is that you have auto scale activated in the display settings. The low and high scaling settings allow you to specify what percentage of the brightest and darkest pixels to ignore. Next we'll look at binning for if you need to increase your pixel size, increase your sensitivity, say at these low exposures. So it's very simple to change. Here just go from binning 1 to binning 2. And just quickly use the scroll wheel to get this window back to its original size. Here we have an image with slightly less resolution, but the signal to noise is better. Now we'll have a quick look at taking movies and time lapses. So you take a movie by going to the Acquire menu and just choosing Stream Acquisition. Here in this window you can specify the number of frames that you want to record, and whether you want to stream to RAM, which is faster, or stream to hard disk, which will allow you to take a longer movie. Here you specify the file name for if you're streaming to hard disk. But we'll stream to RAM right now. If you want to preview your movie as you go, you can choose Display Preview Image during acquisition. But we're not going to do that because it can slow things down a little bit. So if we quickly take our 100 frame movie, at the top we can scroll to the end, and the timestamp will give us a rough idea of the number of frames per second that we've achieved. And as you can see, we're hitting our target of 31 frames per second using the USB mode of the camera. If we want to do a time lapse, there's one setting that you need to change, and then change back if you're recording a movie. That's called the clear mode, and for a time lapse you want to choose clear pre-exposure. Whereas for movies and for normal camera use, you want to choose clear pre-sequence. Once we've picked clear pre-exposure, we can go to the Acquire Time-Lapse menu choice. And here we can specify the interval that we want between frames and how long you want to record for. Finally, we'll look at one of the advanced features of the Prime camera, and that's our PrimeEnhance denoising algorithm. So in order to activate this, we go back and reactivate the noise filter that we have to deactivate when loading MetaMorph. So we go to the Special tab and activate Noise Filter. And as you can see, at this fairly low exposure time of 5 milliseconds, we get an instant increase in contrast and the quality of our signal. You can see the random noise just disappears. All the intensity peaks are preserved, we can still use the values and measure the values, and our structures are preserved. So thank you for watching, and if you have any questions or issues, don't hesitate to contact Photometrics.